All right, let's move on forward here to tournament formats. Now, before we get stuck into this one, if you are not a fan of listening to me talk, if you are not a fan of hearing that, yes, players actually know nothing other than how to fucking shoot heads, if you don't want to listen to me getting quite aggravated and mad, I would shut down and probably come back in 15 to 20 minutes time, because this is something which pissed me the fuck off. So we're going to get stuck into this stuff. And first of all, we're going to talk about, we might reverse engineer this a bit. We'll get this out of the way first and foremost. There was a lot of back and forth from people who may or may not think about formats. And guess what? I fucking think about formats. I go, hold up, 1 second.
Okay.
He just left. Okay. He has a notebook, I feel like. No, he has a lot of.
All right. You see these, everybody at home? You see these? These are lanyards from tournaments. Okay, maybe I don't play in the fucking semi-finals of the tournament, but I work with all of the TOs. And guess what? I give them suggestions, and I consult, and I'm at the tournament, and I'm talking about the formats, and I'm looking at the formats, and I understand how formats work. Guess what? I fucking know a good format. And just because a player thinks that he wants to go to the playoffs, guess what? They don't want a competitive format. They want the format where they can fuck up the most times before they get knocked out of the tournament. Guess who wants a competitive format? Fucking me. I want a competitive, fair format that offers good Counter-Strike so that you motherfuckers at home can have a fantastic experience. See all those fucking lanyards? That is my life. This is my life. This is all I fucking do. So just shut the fuck up. Anyway, let's get stuck into this. Lucas, pull up the group stage fucking thing from fucking EPL. All right, first of all, people were complaining about the seeding. That is one thing I'm sure all three of us here could agree with. The seeding of this tournament was bad. Now, do we all agree with that sentiment?
Yeah. It could be better. Wasn't the worst I saw. I saw a lot of worse, but yeah, could be better.
It was very, I'm not sure which group it actually was. Group A heavy?
This is Group A. This is the one that wasn't stacked.
So Group B heavy.
Can you show Group B as well, Lucas? Just doesn't matter. Show Group B. You don't need to show them side by side. Just show Group B. Okay. So you can see Group A, not really that stacked. Has Daytona versus Heroic as our opening match. That sucks, right? That's not great. This one here, stacked as shit, right? Look at this. We got fucking North versus Liquid, Mouse Sports versus MIBR. We've got like some very competitive teams in here. They're all in this side of the group. Hellraisers versus Luminosity should never in a million years be an opening group stage game. Why is it like this, ladies and gentlemen? Because the seeding was done based off how they did in the regular season. And for those of you who don't quite understand what I'm saying is, the regular season was over 6 weeks. It took part many a days before we got to the finals. And where you place in the regular season should definitely impact where you place in the finals. This is not an ESO1 Cologne. This is not an normal IEM Katowice. This is not a star series with the team seeded 1 to 16 off the world rankings. This is not whatever other fucking event that you can possibly think of where the tournament is standalone of its own accord. This is an event where we have qualifiers for every single team who needs to be in attendance. There's a relegation system coming from Mountain Dew League. There's all these different bits and pieces that lead us to this point. So first of all, I agree that
also
this wasn't...
offline, by the way, just to add on to that. It's not just like a series of online qualifiers that lead into this finals.
That is true. Just to note though, guys, the reason the teams were seeded like this was because the buckets, let's call them buckets. If you placed first place in Europe or North America, you were placed in the same bucket, but you were randomly assigned. So all the teams who placed first in Europe and North America, including Daytona, were given the same seed. Now that is not very well thought out. Now, what I want to suggest to you, and I want this to be clipped, and I want this to be put on the internet so that people can actually talk about it, because guess what? I truly do care about having better formats. This is what I want. So we're going to move on to a thing that I call Bucket 1. And this is something that I have created for all of you, and we're going to talk about this. Now, this is based off of loose seedings of how things would have been previously. Now, I hope that you really enjoy what we're using here. Now, let me explain this. In the very big bucket, in the top left corner, for everybody playing at home, they are for all of the teams who qualify for Pro League first in Group Phase 1 in North America and Europe. Now, the reason that Daytona has not been included in this bucket is because Latin America should not be included as part of North America/Europe, right? That part of the world is not as competitive because all of the good Brazilian teams actually live in North America and compete in North America. That is a very important point to listen to. So here you can see I put them in random order. Australis, Mars, Phase, G2, Liquid, Luminosity, NRG. Then if we move our attention across the screen, we can see first in Group Phase 2. That's where you had to come back for another opportunity to qualify. Now North America and Europe both had more groups of these. The teams that qualified there, in no particular order, are MIBR, North, Fnatic, and Cloud9. Second in Group Phase 2, which is the same group system we're talking about. This is for Europe only. Teams could qualify in the second position and still qualify for the finals. Europe is allowed more spots in the Pro League finals than North America because there are better European teams than there are North American teams. There's no debate about that. This is where Hellraisers and Heroic placed. And then last but not least, in the final bucket, rest of the world. That's Oceania, Asia, and then obviously I've included Latin America, aka Daytona, in that group. Lucas, can you please move us on to the second image? With the second image coming up on the screen momentarily, I am a little bit, here it is. Okay, you can see now, ladies and gentlemen, what I have done is, we have actually done seeding of these teams. Now, before you all get mad, right, before the teams were seeded based on where on their buckets, we're still going to seed the teams based on their buckets, but not randomly. We'll seed them using world rankings. Now, I couldn't find the world rankings from ESL from last week because they've already updated theirs for this week. So I loosely tried to remember what it would have looked like in my head. Now, as you can see here, Liquid number 1, Australis number 2, FaZe number 3, NRG number 4, Mouse number 5, G2 number 6, and Luminosity number 7. Now, does that mean that I think that fucking, for whatever reason, Luminosity is a better team than, I don't know, let's pick North, who are in the first in Group Phase 2 bucket that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen? No, but in this first bucket, they would be the 7th strongest team. So now if we move our attention over towards that bucket I was just talking about, first in Group Phase 2, NA/EU, the teams how they would have been with world ranking seedings. Fnatic would have been the highest ranked team, MIBR would have been the next, North, and then Cloud9. We move into second Group Phase 2, EU, Heroic, and then Hellraisers, and then the rest of the world should always be seeded on their own accord. So here, Greyhound, they're seeded 14th in this tournament. They're the highest seed out of Tyloo, Daytona in the world rankings. So then we have Greyhound 14, Tyloo 15, Daytona 16. Lucas, can you show the last picture? So this last picture we have coming up is how the groups would have actually looked if you used a system like what I just suggested. The opening match would have been Liquid versus Daytona. There would have been Fnatic versus MIBR. That would have been the follow-up game. NRG versus Hellraisers. And then Mouse versus Heroic would be the other side of that 8-team bracket. On the other side of things, in Group B, you would have had Australis versus Tyloo, Luminosity versus North, FaZe versus Greyhound, and G2 versus Cloud9. Don't these groups look a lot fairer, a lot more even in their opening matchups? Doesn't that make a lot more sense for everybody?
It does.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? This is fucking free. I give this shit to TOs for free because I'm a fucking idiot. But I'm here and I want to suggest this stuff so that we can make tournaments better. But this is a simple system that they can use to make the seeding for next time round even better. And you know what they should do? They should actually fold Latin America into North America. And those teams should go into the North American groups as the lower seeded teams. But guess what? I was just working with the basic framework that they had. And ladies and gentlemen, this isn't hard. I do this with everything. So before these fucking idiots on the internet decide to go toe-to-toe with me on Twitter when they're not actually thinking more than the fucking front of their nose, I've already thought through 150 million different steps. I'm already there, boys. I've already thought about it all. You're just catching up now. I know the people who work at these tournaments. I know the fact that production are working 14 to 16 hour days, waking up and doing it all again. I know the fact that you have to pay for these fucking venues that cost shitloads of money and that you can't play 4 best of 3s in a day anymore because guess what, Pitta? It's not 10 hours of entertainment, mate. It's fucking almost, I don't know, a 16-hour day. And just because your team has to rock up and play 1 best of 3, there are so many other fucking moving parts in this industry. People need to understand all the different shit that goes on. If you're a viewer right now who loves to watch CS, I can almost fucking guarantee you love CS probably on the same par as me. I fucking love this game. If you're here watching this podcast, that means you must fucking like it. Well, I wouldn't go watch 16 hours of CS in a venue. I wouldn't see you out there watching. I would hate you to go sit on one of these seats for 16 hours. This is why we have these formats which offer you better alternatives. They give you a better opportunity to actually have a nice day of viewing. So you're not sitting there paying $16 for a fucking hot dog and a Coke and having to ration out your meals. These things here are better for everybody. But instead, we get these players who don't think even more than half a second ahead of their fucking Twitter fingers. Just because they played in semi-finals of these tournaments doesn't mean they understand how tournament structures work. Doesn't mean they understand, how many different people need to go into making this venture happen. This is the thing that everybody just needs to relax on. I'm going to shut the fuck up now. Anyway, Prof, is the ESL system flawed with the best of ones in the opening game before I fucking blow a gasket?
Obviously not. I mean,
I'm gonna somewhat go against that, but
it's the best format we have in CS. It's very stacked in best of threes. It's kind of even forgiving. If you lose one best of one, you can still go through. You can still win the tournament. We saw it happening with Navi and Cologne. We saw it happening now with Liquid. If you're the better team, you can go through. You can win the fucking event. It's a great system. It has, like, obviously everyone wants everything to be best of three. It's not that easy to get something like that. Even like it is, like the group stage with double matches, it's kind of hard to follow everything. But okay, you get the playoffs. That's the most important part. You get 5 fucking great matches most of the time. 3 days. You can watch that. Not too long. It's a pretty good format.
Just quickly on that as well with the double matches, there are probably a lot of people out there who watch, like, say, the final of Wimbledon, but they don't watch every single game of Wimbledon, right? That happens in so many different sports. There's people who probably watch the World Cup final, but don't watch every group stage match of the World Cup.
I mean, the World Cup final also has double matches, triple matches, shit like that all the time.
Yeah. So I think that if they could get rid of that opening best of one, which is something that I have been talking to some people from ESL about trying to do, and how we could miraculously find more hours in a day, which feels like it's almost impossible, but we're talking about things. If we could get rid of that opening best of one, then there's no discussion. Like, there's no discussion anymore. There's no point sitting there talking about. Striker, can you do this for me? Can you concisely explain to the public, because I'll just do it in a raging tangent, on why, actually, anyone do this, on why it doesn't matter if you come 7th to 8th from the group stage or 5th to 6th in the playoffs, right? That physically, from a competitive standpoint, other than these players' own selfish position of, I want to play on a stage, I think Carmack's reply to Cadian was fucking brilliant. I think him saying earn it was brilliant. Like, can you explain to the viewer why there's no difference?
That was the worst argument that I've ever seen. That was Cadian, right? Who said this?
There was, like, Apex had some stuff in there too.
Well, Apex's view was, well, whatever. Well, the main brunt of it was regarding Cadian saying, like, how he's been trying to get onto this, like, whatever, get onto the stage, right? And that's his argument, right? Like, of course, like, that's supposed to be hard to do, right? You're supposed to earn it. Like, it's not just gonna be given to you on a silver platter. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, this is big event playoffs. This is an event that was one of the most prestigious all year round. Basically, like, right outside of the 2 majors, the ESL Pro League is probably like maybe like below Cologne or something like that. Like on the third, kind of like a tier of tournaments that we have in CS, or maybe a second. So, like, of course, it's going to be hard to go to the playoffs at these events, and you have to earn it. You have to beat some really good teams on the way there. So that argument to me was the stupidest one overall. The best one in the opening round, I agree in the sense that it makes it pretty cutthroat if you lose that opening game, and especially if two favorites in the same group. If it happens to 2 favorites in the same group, like, let's say the first seed and the fourth. Let's say the first and fourth both lose the opening game.
But that also never happened.
Well, the Liquid did, basically. Of course, they weren't the first seed, like, or the only first seed, but basically that's how it...
Two like high-seeded teams to lose and then go into the lower bracket. I don't remember that ever happening.
That's the thing, though. But it can happen. Like, you saw that Liquid could lose to North, even though they weren't supposed to.
But if you lose, then you lose.
Of course, I'm not saying that it's not fair. I'm just saying that it's pretty damn cutthroat, especially if it happens to 2 at the same time. Then you will be missing, like, one of those 2 teams. Let's say both of them just go through the first 2 best of 3s in the lower bracket, right? Both the first and fourth seed that lose, and then they meet in the last match that decides a spot in the playoffs, right? Like, that series would have definitely been better on stage, more exciting, with more on the line than it being just for a playoff spot. It would have been better on a semifinals or even a grand final if that was to happen. So for one best of one to have a decision that big potentially or basically 2 best of ones in this case that I'm talking about. Yes, that isn't ideal, but yeah, at the same time, like you have to find some sort of a space for it, and ESL obviously couldn't. Otherwise, it would have already been the case that there's the best of 3 in the opening game as well. I don't see any other sort of solution that would allow them to retain the same schedule, the same amount of days, and fix this problem that they have with the opening best of 1. I don't know, Chad, if they're already working on that or if they have a solution to it, but I don't know about any reasonable one.
I have a suggestion for them, but it's not one that I want to talk about just yet, and it's one that would probably just mean more games broadcasted at once on the first day only. But yeah,
I mean, I feel like that's pretty reasonable though. The opening game is not massively impactful anyway. It doesn't really have that much on the line, so for that opening round to have maybe like a triple cast or something, I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, it's probably not difficult to get through in concept. It's just difficult to get through with all the business.
Yeah, you have to have a triple broadcast set up. That's the problem. Yeah, sure.
But there's all these bits and pieces. But yeah, I think that there are people from ESL who I talk to who want the whole format to be best of 3s, and they're trying to work out ways to make it all best of 3s. And I was suggesting ways, but the thing is, even like I'm not a product manager. I don't think from always think from a logistical standpoint. Like I say, why don't we just do this? And they go, yeah, but then we need to get another 4 tournament setups. And I go, oh shit. Okay, well that's a lot more money. That's 5 times this, 5 times. Well, it's not 5 times that, is it at all? It's fucking 5 times 4 times this, times that, times everything. So there's so many more things that happen here when you have an idea of something and they're thinking about it. Like they wanted to make it possible if possible, but that's just one of the things at the moment. Anyway, Prof, I'm sorry I cut you off. Where were you going?
No, I just wanted to touch on the whole thing about people wanting, if it's a 16-team tournament, then they want 8 teams in the playoffs. I just saw someone say it in chat as well. It's just something that people have in their minds, that this is the number of teams that should be in the playoffs, because that's how it usually is. Half of the teams advance from the groups to the playoffs. It doesn't have to be it can be any number of teams depending on the format. Why would we have to abide to some imaginary rule of 50% need to go into the playoffs? That for me doesn't make any sense. If it doesn't give a better product, then we don't have to do it. The thing regarding also having 4 quarterfinals instead of 2 quarterfinals, if you guys, if we all in the community were that important that we could fill an arena on a Thursday, then we'd have an arena for Thursday for 2 quarterfinals. But we don't have that much people. Fridays mostly aren't that full for 90% of the arenas out there. So what is the point? Even if an Optic or I don't know, a North plays an NRG in Montpellier on a Thursday, there would be no one there. No one wants to watch them. It's they are okay teams. They have online people will watch them, but people in France probably won't watch them. Even people in NA, the number would be fairly low. So the thing is, if this was that big, then it would automatically just grow itself that way, but it's not. And the match isn't that important as it is to you personally. To the viewer, it's not that important. So that's why it doesn't exist as a stage match. That's what I said.
I didn't even think of that standpoint, which is ludicrous. But that in itself, here's the thing to all of you out there, and I'm not saying you have to come to these events, but I'm saying if you live, my geography's so bad. If you live in somewhere that is near, what's an event after the player break? New York. If you live near New York and you've been thinking, let's say you live 2 states away. Let's say you really wanted to go to an event and you are like, but it's not in my city, so I'll probably give it a miss. Go to the event, because let me tell you, if you guys don't go to the events and you really want to and you miss it, that event might not be there next year. Your attendance is direct feedback to whether or not Counter-Strike is popular in that part of the world. So by having the mindset of it's too far away, or I'll just wait for it to come to my city, or it might not exist anymore. That is something, if you want to watch it live, you should really take advantage of these opportunities. And I understand that money is, I'm not saying this is for everybody. Of course not. Not everybody has the money for it. Not everybody has the time for it. But I'm just saying that if you have been thinking about it, you should really go and, give it a crack. But Yeah. Anyway, I'm no longer frustrated anymore. Do we have any more points on this ESL format? I just find it absurd that these cunts are willing to light up the internet regarding ESL's format when realistically that and the Star Ladder Best of Three Swiss are two of the formats that offer some of the most Counter Strike. And actually, the ESL format is the most fairly balanced between competitiveness and fairness. So fairness of opportunity to compete, multiple chances, and competitiveness in terms of, it is cutthroat. You can't rock up. Like, let's just say if you rock up to the Star Ladder one, in the first 2 days, you're going out every night getting drunk and you lose your first two best of threes and then you win the last three. Well, you've just been given as many opportunities to fuck up as you can. You're not taking game one seriously enough, right? Or like think about it from that perspective for a second. If things are seeded fairly, and the format is good, it shouldn't matter how many chances. Like, you shouldn't lose a best of one. In tennis, if you're fucking Federer and you come into a thing and you're like within the top three seeds and you're playing one of these bottom seed guys who have to qualify in and you lose, you're out. Like, they're not going to you at Wimbledon and saying, "Oh, sorry that you didn't train hard enough and focus hard enough here, Federer, for this thing. We'll give you another chance tomorrow." But in Counter Strike, we go, "Yeah, maybe you had an off day, so we'll give you another chance tomorrow." And sometimes we go, "Yeah, maybe you had 2 off days. We'll give you another chance the next day." We do that for them, right? Like, you have that opportunity.
I mean,
So
that's part of the problem. Part of the problem, though, that they've been allowed this kind of leeway a lot of the time, so they just feel they can bring up issues that are obviously just very one-sided to the teams and not from the overall perspective. And so this is kind of like an overall mindset that we kind of need to get away from, at least a little bit. I can understand why tournament organizers do listen to them a lot, and a lot of the time they try to go and meet them halfway at least, because obviously like the players need to be kind of happy about attending your tournament if you want them to stay for more, and then for them to accept invites to the future ones. I understand all that, but like you say, it's not like they're experts on anything but actually playing the game. Like anything outside of the game, anything organizational, that's nothing that they have any better expertise on than anybody else who's actually working behind the scenes or on broadcast who looks at these things from a much broader perspective.
Yeah.
okay.
I see people asking about why this isn't done through the Players Association. Like, your question is as good as mine, I guess.
Well, the thing is, like that's also the problem, right? The Twitter on Twitter, it's just any player can just just shout out something into the air, and that's it, right? It's just gonna take on its own. That's the problem. Like they're not even thinking about taking this seriously and just trying to figure out like an overall way of fixing it. They just literally just shout it into the air, and that's it.
I want to move on from this because it will frustrate me to no end, and
Yeah, go for it. I mean, I don't think we have anything else to add.
But I want Lucas to bring up a tweet right now, and this is from someone from League Ops. This is Mr. Slavinsky from ESL. His name is Mihal, and his tweet reads, "Last year we identified an issue with players abusing the restore round feature when a miss-buy happened. It took some thinking and experimentation, but I think we found the perfect solution. In Montpellier, we only had to restore one round due to a genuine crash." So I want to elaborate on this a little bit more for all of you. Now, I'm not going to name names and I'm not going to point fingers, but when freeze time occurs and a tactical timeout is called, or maybe not even a tactical timeout, maybe they're just in freeze time and somebody misbuys, what that person or what the in-game leader or what the person who in that team is designated, somebody, this is a thing, would somehow have a computer crash, which would maybe be them pulling out a power cable, or maybe them rebooting their computer, or maybe them doing something else which is not so fair. And then they would rejoin the server, and then they would buy something completely different to what they misbought. Now, Mr. Slavinsky here has just stated that they have brought something into the game that now, if they do misbuy, there will be no more problems with that. They will be playing with whatever the fuck they bought. If you rock into pistol and you automatically buy a smoke, a flash, and a P250, and your in-game leader changes the call or makes a call, is like, no, you're doing the wrong strat and you misbought the wrong thing, there'll be no fucking delaying the broadcast by 10 minutes because we have to do a fucking round restore or any of that bullshit. This, what I'm telling you guys, is legitimate. This is true. There have been multiple instances of people rebooting PCs and just go, oh, it crashed. That is legitimately the case.
The
So
TeamSpeak issues is the classic, though. That's
now
the
the
classic.
TeamSpeak
No one can ever like see what's happening. You say, "Oh, my TeamSpeak doesn't work," and then the admin comes in. It's like, "What's wrong?" It's, "Oh, it works now." Oh, great. Okay, we can restart the round quickly and get back into it. It's a classic. Online, even more.
The thing about like misbuys in the sense of like they actually buy whatever they wanted, but they realize that they shouldn't have because they the game they're called a certain strat, and they realize they didn't have a smoke for that or something. I feel like that's the bigger problem than like some fucking whatever, like buying a bison in a gun round by accident, because I rarely see those nowadays. At least I haven't in a long time, where somebody just bought whatever, like a bison or something that
Was
they
that
obviously
this
wouldn't
event
have.
when someone bought a Negev at the ESL Pro League?
yeah, and they had to use it. It was on Dust 2, I'm pretty sure. I think it was Stown. I feel like it was Stown.
Yeah. It was someone from Heroics, sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure it happens like on occasion, but I feel like most of these problems are probably just like they didn't have a smoke that they should have, and they just realized it late and stuff like that. Then they auto bought based on whatever they thought was going on. So I feel like that was the bigger problem, and obviously we need to get rid of those cases.
Like, none of us want fucking technical issues, delays.
No. I 100% agree with this.
You have like you have someone win the pistol round and then it's paused. Like, fuck that. Like, everyone gets hyped like a caster. Like, you get the fucking great analyst then goes into
That's the worst thing ever.
It goes into the pistol and everyone's like, hyping, oh, let's go. It's such a big important match. Oh, it's a 1v1 clutch. Great. It's a technical pause. And then they sit there for 5 minutes. That's annoying as fuck. And stuff like that can happen because of these things. So fuck it. If you press the wrong button, live with it. Like, your job is pressing buttons. So I think you can, like, that is a reasonable expectation from you to press the right button.
Also, if you have auto buy, fuck off. Just
auto buy
don't do it.
Should be unbound.
Yeah, that happened to Havoc in one of the majors that we were playing in, and I didn't even know pausing it and getting a restore was a possibility. I was just like, I guess we're buying now. Like, you know, those things happen. But I'm glad that ESL have come up with a way to enforce that rule. It's very important. Now it's just the coach rule, making sure that those motherfuckers are not talking when they shouldn't. So hopefully they can sort that one out soon. But